Martin Scorsese did Goodfellas. Steven Spielberg could direct Goodfellas. Martin Scorsese probably could have done a good job with Schindler's List. But they're cultural differences.
You need to make sure that you aren't afraid to fail, because failing is one of the greatest learning experiences you can ever partake in your life. It does so much for you personally, your psyche, and your experience in the real world, because you are gonna fail. There's no getting around it. And when you do, it's gonna suck. It's gonna feel like you got punched in the face and kicked down. But it's all about how you decide to come back from that failure. So many successful people have claimed that the best thing that ever happened to them is failing, so that they can learn and grow from those experiences, and the knowledge that they gained from their failure was the reason why they became successful down the line. So everything that you do is crucial to your game of life and your game of success. No matter how hard you seem it is, that will partake in a valuable part of your experience down the line, because it is what it is, failing. And if you can decide how you handle yourself during a failure, then you can decide how you handle yourself during a success, because you've been down on the bottom, you've been where it hurts, you've been where it's hard to do anything, but you've decided to rise up from that challenge and decide to push through. And you just shouldn't be afraid to fail, because it's such an eye-opening experience, and there's so much to gain from each and every failure, that you're gonna fail, and you're gonna fail often, as long as you're not afraid, because you know that you're gonna come back from any failure that you attempt.
People have different philosophies. For some, it's not mysterious, it's very technical, and you can do this and that and this and that, and you should get a certain result. You know, the thing about great writing, August Wilson, Eugene O'Neill, you name it, Arthur Miller, Tennessee Williams, there's so many layers. It's not just one thing. It's open to interpretation. You know, I've heard people say things, well, I felt he was this and that. I was like, oh, I never thought about that. But people ask me, well, what do I want them to get from the film? I say, well, it depends upon what they bring to it. So what you see in Troy or feel about Troy has to do with your own life and standards. And here's the thing you got to remember. When you talk about racial and you talk about discrimination, maybe, what if he just wasn't good enough? See, it's so easy to just say, oh, it's because of this, it's because of racism, or I didn't get the job because of that. Maybe you weren't good enough. Maybe, like his wife says, you were just too old. She says, why don't you just admit it? You were too old. He's the one that's hung up on,
My mother, she's 95 years old now. Everything ends in because I'm your mother, that's why. Shut up. Still, the other day, because I'm your mother, that's why. Shut up. To my father, who taught me by example how to be a gentle man, the most important person in my life. 40 years of sacrifice, 40 years of forgiveness. She taught me about faith, spirituality, love, real love, unwavering love. In spite of myself, I would not be alive without Pauletta Washington. I wouldn't be alive. Discuss other people, gossip. Good minds discuss events, great minds discuss ideas. I was Eleanor Roosevelt. I was also Pauletta's father, my father-in-law. He was a great man. He taught me so much what being a man really is. I want to end the night with a short video that we recorded, Pauletta's father, 30 years ago, that my son, Malcolm, gave me, an AFI graduate. Pauletta's father had to say 30 years ago, try and turn this thing around. I blame no one. I look in the mirror. On the other side of it, what an opportunity we have, because tomorrow's the first day of the rest of our lives. So what an opportunity we have to practice.
First thing I learned, first guy I met, I walk in like, oh, I'm here with a sick person. You know, you don't know how to act. And he's like, Denzel, loosen up. So I learned a lot from that. He and we were like talking about movies. Yeah. Well, and I had become so comfortable and been around so many quads, and I didn't need to ask the basic questions. I was more like, well, what are you gonna be doing next? And doing certain things, like I walk in the room, I knew to get in front of him so he can see me. Don't sit on the side. And the film opens with the boxes, so it's gotta be right. I remember as I thought back on it, I used to enjoy world history. I used to enjoy research projects, you know. I always did well in history and social sciences. Well, they wanted to write a script themselves first, and the Army gave them that opportunity to do that. I didn't think it was such a good idea for them to do.
I was pre-med in college, then I said I'd be a doctor, then I was political science, I said I'd be a lawyer, then I studied journalism. So I actually was working my way toward the arts without realizing. That's why I told my children a liberal arts education is okay. You don't have to know at 7, I was 17 when I started college. You don't have to know at 17 what you're gonna do the rest of your life. So I worked it out, I found my way to theater. I started with Eugene O'Neill's The Emperor Jones. First role, second role was Othello. So I really didn't see anybody who looked like me. So I didn't aspire to act in movies because there was Richard Pryor and Sidney was on the end of his, but I liked those New York movies, you know, Taxi Driver, August Wilson's screenplay 7 years ago. And I read it, and I thought it needed work, quite frankly. So I said, well, I haven't read the play. So I read the play, and it said Troy Maxon, 53 years old.
As working with kids as a coach, coaching my own kids, I get a lot of pleasure out of that. So this gave me that opportunity.
Your son got shot in the face, that's difficult. Making a movie is a luxury. It's a gift. It's an opportunity, and most importantly, it's a gift. Obviously, everybody here is talented enough to do that, but don't get it twisted. It's just a movie.
I don't look at, I'm reminded of the experiences, that I had making those films. So it's interesting to see them one against the other. I don't get to see them like, people have different philosophies. For some, it's not mysterious, it's very technical, and you can do this and that and this and that, and you should get a certain result.
Thank you all so much for watching. Please go ahead and like this video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and let us know what you thought down in the comment section below.